Alright, so I've cracked the nuts loose and then loosened them screws off. So I had stated in the other video that these are sharpened to a point. I mean, they're not a needle point by any means, but they do kind of taper a little bit. I would like it better if it was a sharper point, but you can see my concern of, you know, that's not really going to hold that if that weld fails, in my opinion. So I'm going to try to, you know, drill a little bitty hole, not a little bitty, but probably as big as that spot there. I'll find a drill bit, I'll caliper it, and put a pretty good divot in there for those to bite into. You know what, let me get a... I don't remember if I looked before when I was redoing that steering box, painting it and stuff. What did I do with my light? I may have to go back to my old video and see where I laid the light down at. Maybe they did it, I don't know. I don't remember if I looked in there before or not. I need to look at that and see if maybe they did drill it. Well, I don't know what the heck I did with my flashlight. Alright, to be continued. Alright, I found it. Yeah, it's not drilled. I don't know if you can see that or not. And again, I don't know if that's what the instructions say to do or not, but I don't just want to stick a drill bit in there and take a chance on messing up them threads. So I want to put some kind of sleeve or a piece of tubing in there, and then that'll protect that, and then I can get the hole drilled. But I'll have to look through my stash of stuff and see what I got. I do have some stuff over here. I actually got this out yesterday. I don't know if I have anything that'll work or not. I mean, a piece of brake line or anything would work. Just about anything will work. There's a piece of brake line right there. That's too small. Oh, there's a little piece there. And that's too big. Dang it. Dang it. I do have, I think. I mean, I got all kinds of little things I could possibly use here. That was what I said. That's the same as the one I had. You know, when you've been building cars for years, I'm sure some of you guys are in the same shape. You've got, you amass quite the collection of parts and pieces. Nothing in there. Now I do have one on the bottom, of course. Spacers in one and sleeves in the other. So I get a nice small one here. And in case you don't know, you can go to like a Lowe's or Home Depot where all the hardware is and the slide drawers and stuff, or their little plastic cabinets that they have, and they have sleeves and bushings and all kinds of little stuff. It's amazing how much stuff you could use in a restoration if it's something custom, you know, and you need something like a sleeve or a spacer or anything like that. I don't know what these deals are. Oh, that's plastic. I don't know if I want to use plastic. Hey, we have a winner. Look at that. It fit in there kind of snug. The only thing is it's plastic, and I don't really want to... I wanted that to be a metal. That way it, you know, resists the drill bit a little bit. I'm going to keep looking, though. I have... So I have an assortment that I've picked up at shooting ranges and stuff like that of empty casings, shell casings, cartridges, whatever you want to call them. I just don't know where they are right there. And it's just, you know, it's ammo is all it is. It's been shot up. And I'm hoping maybe a 22 shell fit in there, and then I'll just cut the end off to make it just a tube. And you can see how many times I've used them for... I keep these to like plug holes. Like I think I used these to paint my pulleys or balancer, I don't remember, and that was to plug the threaded holes. Also, I use them, you can really see it on this one. If you're making a gasket, you can use them empty cartridges or casings, whatever you want to call them. And these different sizes, you might find the perfect size for your bolt to punch the holes in the gasket. So, one little 22 shell right there. That plastic piece it fit pretty snug. I did get it out of there though. Well, I think the 22 might work. I wish it was just a little bit bigger. Same. Oh, that's because it's a 22 long rifle. I better. Oh man, that's it right there. Nice. Very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my... You got to remember, guys, I'm a redneck, and when it comes to doing things, sometimes I do things a little bit maybe odd to some people. This is a tubing cutter. You know, like plumbing. So I'm just going to use that to cut that end off. And I can't do this one-handed, obviously. And I have not done this before, so I don't know if this will work or not. It should. Probably end up running my little cutters here. I'm probably about due for a new one anyway, because this one is old. It's not super old, I shouldn't say that. It's probably 25 years old, maybe. Yeah, I've made a lot of brake lines with this, and I'm sure that tip is pretty, you know, dull by now, or the cutting wheel. And right now, my brother Don is watching this video because he was a plumber for years. He's looking at that and he's probably cringing because I might have just messed up my cutter. Anyway, that fit really nice down in there. It's like a little bit snug, so that's perfect, man. All right, so I am going to, actually I need to caliper out the, dang it. I'm going to caliper out that and then find a drill bit that is just a hair thinner. All right, I got to get some work done. Trying to do this with a GoPro running is just too much mess. All right, so that's I cut that off, and I can still use it for a hole punch for a gasket. So it wasn't a total waste, and I can still use this piece too for a hole punch. Two different sizes, actually. Anyway, it ended up being 7/32, and it fits really nice. It's just a hair smaller, so it does have a little wiggle to it, but I think that's perfect. And this is one of them drill bits with the pilot tip, so that'll work pretty good. Now again, I'm not going real deep on this. I don't want to weaken that shaft, but oh boy, what have I just noticed? Oh man, really? I don't know if you guys can see that. I just noticed that I remember anyway. So they like flattened off a side of that shaft. These shafts are round all the way up, so they flattened that off. So this this rag joint wasn't for a round. So technically that's probably okay what they did. So you know what I mean? They flattened off a spot on it to fit in there so that this piece here actually has a flat side to it. So it's obviously not going to slip. So yeah, now I feel really good about it. And my guess is that they probably ground too much off or cut too much off, and it probably fit on there sloppy, and maybe that's why I mean, I don't know. But I'm glad I seen that right there. I mean, now I really feel more comfortable with it. And I really don't need to do what I'm doing now, because that flat side on that is gonna, you know, like this piece is flat-sided, and now the shaft, they flattened it off to fit in there, so it won't slip. But since I've already went through the effort of doing this, I'm gonna go ahead, since I've got the drill bit laying there, I'm gonna go ahead and divot them just a little bit. So, I mean, might as well. I loosened everything off and I got one out, and the stuff's laying here, so. All right, I feel better about it. I think my drill bit's dull. That didn't really need it. I want to clarify that I didn't really need it, since the shaft's kind of flattened off on one side. So again, I haven't seen any instructions on this install. They did all this. I'm just going back and trying to correct it, or doing it my way, I guess. All right, I feel really, really good about it now. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and put star washers on them too. What do we call that? That's over engineering. Yeah. That rag joint looks like it's messed up right there and there. Huh. It's got some, looks like dry cracks in it. Actually, I think that rag joint, that needs to be changed. I think I can get that at O'Reilly's. It's probably like a GM. See if I can find my star washers. There's a lot of star washers on a Tri-5 Chevy, guys. If you're going to restore one, they're kind of hit and miss on the car here and there. They're really good for grounds, like ground wires and stuff. I got this on eBay. It's an assortment, and they're stainless. And it wasn't very much. I don't remember now what it was, but it might have been like 12 bucks or something like that. Definitely a lot cheaper than going and buying them, you know. I think these are all, yeah, these are standard, and this is metric crap, so I may not even have any that'll fit. Well, there we go. That'll fit pretty good. Just kind of ensures that the nut won't back off there. Makes me feel a little bit more better. Better. Again, over-engineering, I guess. When it comes to steering and stuff, that's something to kind of, you know, be on your toes with, I think. The edge of that off when that wrench slipped, but it's not really that noticeable. At least it's tight. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and assemble all the other crap. All right, so I got one put together. Kinda. It's just ballparking it right now. So what I want to do after I get this one assembled, kinda like that one, I want to go ahead and get the steering, the center link installed. And then I'm going to set the rotors and everything to where it's pretty much straight. And then I will try to adjust these by hand to where I can just set them, they fall right into place, but with an even amount of thread on there, instead of, you know, having one really barely in there and the one way in there. So I basically want to split the difference and make it kind of even, to where it looks like it's mostly straight. And then the alignment shop, when they go to align it, it won't take, you know, very many turns to get a little bit of toe in on it. So in theory anyway. All right guys, so I've got the tie rods kind of assembled a little bit, and I want to get the center link in first and get all that taken care of. Then I'm going to adjust on the tie rods until they're even in the sleeve and they actually just fall in place with all this stuff setting straight for basically just a baseline adjustment, because the alignment shop will, you know, move them around. So I don't want just a little bit of one tie rod in the sleeve and then a whole lot of the other one in there. I want to get them, you know, where it's pretty even. I wanted to show the proper orientation of the hardware that goes inside the center link on the pivot ball that's on the Pitman. So I cleaned all that up inside really nice with some Scotch-Brite, and then I put a little bit of grease on my finger and went in there and lubed it up a little bit. This is a greasable spot, but I want to pre-grease everything before I put it in there. So before I put grease on this stuff, I wanted to show how it goes. So I've got this sitting here, and I've got to load half of it in there, and then I'm going to set it up on the car and then push the other stuff through the end and then set it all up. So first thing that goes in here is a spring. So that spring will go in there first, and then I always call these stems, I don't know what they're really called, but anyway, that goes in that way next. So that'll go in there. Then you got your cup washer, and it has a notch in it for to slip it over the ball. That'll go on. Then I'll set this up on the car, on the steering box, and then the other cup washer goes on. then the spring, then the sleeve or stem, whatever you want to call it, goes on that way, and then your nut goes on there. So the nut goes to this bigger surface area of this. Now you want to be sure you have this on before you put this on the pivot ball on the Pitman. This needs to go on first. Now when you buy these, they're called dust seals or dust covers. Anyway, it comes with a little foam sponge seal right here that keeps the dirt and dust out of it. So be sure both pieces go on there before you stick it on the ball over there. So right now I'm going to go ahead and load all this stuff up with grease by hand. That way it's pre-lubed before I put it in there. Right, these cup washers have a hole through them, so that's how when you grease them it squeezes into there. And that'll go. If I can get it to go in there. Okay, so now it's ready to hang on there. All right, so I got it put on there and I got it loaded with all the stuff. I went ahead and put all the idler arm bearing end pieces on and the nut, just kind of run it down finger by finger. It's not done yet. So the dust cap, it goes on. It has a short side and it has a long side, and I put the long side out. So when you look at that, it has an offset hole, and I put the longer part of it facing out toward the nut. Now that takes a giant flat blade something or other, and this is what I've always used. It's just an old school tire tool, and this is what I've always used, and it works pretty good on that. Now what you're supposed to do is run this all the way down, tighten it all the way down until it stops. Back it off 3/4 of a turn plus whatever you need to get the cotter pin through it. So 3/4 out plus whatever it takes to put the cotter pin. That is the adjustment on these. And if you got a high mileage Tri-5 and that's never been apart, it would be a good idea to pull the cotter pin out of it and readjust it, bottom it out, pull it out 3/4 of a turn plus, because if the cups have some wear in it, they would probably, the screw will turn in some more. So keep that in mind. Now, if you don't do this correctly, if you just barely put the nut on there, or the bolt, whatever you want to call it, barely put it in there, that could pop off that pivot ball, and that would not be good. And this is obviously hard to do one-handed holding the GoPro, so you get the idea. All right, steering linkage stuff is all installed. I don't have the nuts tight. I don't have the cotter pins and stuff. I just kind of run everything down kind of finger tight. Anyway, I don't have the bolts in these clamps yet. I'm going to dig through my Grade 8 hardware and see if I've got some Grade 8 bolts to put in there with the gold CAD on them, because the bolts that they give me for these are going to be the black phosphate, and they're just going to rust. And if I spray paint them, by the time I get done using a ratchet and a wrench on them, it's going to chip the paint off of it and it'll rust anyway. So anyway, if I don't have any Grade 8, I guess I'll put the factory ones in there. But anyway, now what I did here, you have a long tie rod and you have a short tie rod for a Tri-5 Chevy stock style. The long tie rod goes on the inside. The shorter tie rod goes on the outside to the spindle. So when I was talking about getting these even, What I meant was get it even, like with the amount of thread on each end. I got the same amount of thread here as here. I mean, pretty close. I didn't measure it. I just kind of eyeballed it because when it gets aligned, they'll loosen the nuts and bolts off and they'll turn this sleeve because one of them's reverse thread, left-hand thread. So anyway, you can turn this one way or the other and it will adjust the toe in the car. Now, this is how I do my clamps. You can do them however you want. When I do mine, I orient the clamps to where the bolts will go in straight across this way on the bottom. And I'll put the head of the bolt on the back side and the nut will go out here. So anyway, that's just how I do it. But there are, you know, you can put it this way. I don't know if it would come in contact with anything. But that's just how I always orient them, is where they're straight down like that. That's, again, just everybody's different, you know what I mean? Now, the suspension's all the way down because there's no weight on it. The car's not on its own weight. But if all that stuff was together and I let the jack down, this suspension stuff would come up, so that all this would come up. So, you know, if you put your stud out here, or, you know, had this out here, when this comes up and you're steering it, I don't know if it would come in contact with the idler. I don't know, but I just always put them on the bottom. You can do it however you want, just telling you. Now, I will tell you, on the sleeves, the long tie rod that goes on the inside, it has a lot more thread area than this one does. So when you go to put them in there, just try to orient them enough where it has the same amount of thread on each end. You don't want to bottom one of them out and then have a bunch of thread on the other one, because if the alignment shop has to turn it that way and it's already bottomed out, this won't turn. They'll have to take all this loose, turn the tie rod in the sleeve, and then put it back on the spindle. So anyway, this is just how I do it. If anybody else does it differently, good for you. This is just how I do it. But I don't ever try to tell anybody how you should do it. I just always say how I do it, because there's all kinds of keyboard professionals out there. So I am not a professional front end aligner, but I've been around it, and I usually do my own at-home front end alignments, but doesn't make me an expert by any means. But when the car goes on a machine, the machine and the lasers and all the crap will tell it what it needs. And you know, if I don't have it oriented right, they can take it apart and fix it. It's part of the alignment anyway. So I have a cotter pin for this, and it's pretty dang long, so I'm going to be trimming this down a little bit. And the way I do these is probably different than other people. I actually rotate this one. I kind of wrap it around back this way, and I wrap the other one back around this way. And again, you can do it however you want. It's just the way I do it. But I got to tell you, I am a huge believer in those idler arm bearing conversion kits. From stock, they came with just a rubber bushing, and if you've ever rebuilt one of those at home with a new bushing, it is hard as hell to turn those after a new bushing is installed and the nuts tighten down. It's all you can do to turn it. So when you put the bearing kit in there, you can spin that thing like there's no tomorrow, so everything moves really freely. It has been nicknamed as poor man's power steering, but don't think that you can get in your car and put one finger on the wheel and turn it with one finger with not having power steering. It doesn't work that way. And I said it in one of my older videos, if you have power steering, there's not really any need to get an idler arm bearing conversion kit. You probably won't be able to tell the difference unless it's in a pretty bad bind. I mean, it might, but I don't know that I would waste the money on it if I had power steering. But Steve's keeping it manual, so I told him to get an idler arm bearing conversion kit, and that's what I put on it. But those things are very expensive. He actually bought the one from Woody's. That is one from Woody's, and it came pre-assembled. So like that whole end was put together, and then down here you obviously have to put the stuff on yourself and press in the races in the center link. But it's really a simple job. But I love these things. I could not tell you how many of those I've installed. I've done a lot of customer cars, and I've done almost all of my cars. They work wonders for manual steering cars. It just helps because it's less resistance. But anyway, not a plug, because, you know, I wasn't sponsored for that. Steve bought that outright. But anyway, that's where I'm at on the car now. The steering linkage. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten all the cotter pin, or the nuts, and put the cotter pins in. Rummage through my grade 8 hardware and see if I have bolts, lock washers, and nuts for the clamps for the tie rod sleeves. And then I think I'm gonna go out and dig in my shed and see if I can find that window track. I'm pretty sure I have one, and I think it's brand new in the package still yet. So I don't know if I mentioned it in that video when I was talking about that window track. I bought a brand new glass set for my hardtop, and when you buy those pre-assembled, it comes with a brand new chrome frame and brand new glass. You don't get that track that goes on the bottom, or I didn't think you did. And then when I took mine out of the package, I think those were on there. So it could have been the main flat track that goes in there that you grease and your rollers go in. I just don't remember, because I'm gonna have to go in there and look. But anyway, what I did while I was assembling my car, I didn't ever pull the glass out and look at it. I just assumed it didn't have the track, and I called H&H and ordered a set, and they got delivered. And then when I pulled the glass out of the package, those tracks were in there, and I was like, dang it. And I was in a rush trying to get the car ready for a show as usual, so I didn't ever send them back. I just kept them here. So again, going off of, if I have another part here that Steve can use on the car, I'm not going to charge him for it. I'm just going to stick it on there because he is my cousin. I doubt I ever do another hardtop for me. They're too expensive to do up. A hardtop, I should say. That I don't know if you guys realize, but the restoration difference in amount of work between a sedan versus a hardtop, there's a lot. I've never restored a convertible, so I couldn't tell you. And I'll tell you, I think a Nomad would probably be a lot more restoration work if you were doing everything yourself. You got to look at it as all the stainless steel features on the car. Like a hardtop, this is all stainless steel up through here. The flippers have stainless on the back side. This has stainless on the back side, so when you're in the car, that's all you see is stainless all the way down. And then you got your bows that go across. You got the stainless that goes around the back window across the top, and the pieces that go in the back. There's a lot of stainless trim that you have to restore. And I spent days on the stainless trim for this car. So like a sedan, like a 2-door sedan, post car, or a 4-door, if it's not a Bel Air, which I think a 4-door Bel Air it's going to have a lot of stainless around it as well, so it'd probably be about the same. But to me, a hardtop is a lot more work because of the flippers. You have to adjust that stuff. You have to reline the tracks, adjust. There's so many window adjustments on a hardtop versus a sedan. There's just a lot more to a hardtop, a sport coupe, I should say, over a sedan. A sedan, the windows are so basic. The new felt liner that goes in there is real basic. It goes in there. You know, with these flippers, you have to reline them. You have to reline your rear window tracks. I mean, there's a lot to a hardtop. But to me, it was a lot of work, and that's why it took so long to do my car. It's just a lot more work. But my wife's 4-door should go pretty quick. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video because I am probably going to be a good hour trying to dig in my shed, because I'm going to have to pull a bunch of crap out of there. There's 3 motorcycles sitting there, old vintage ones that are apart in pieces. They still roll, but I'm gonna have to pull them out to get up in there to get into the loft. Because if I have those tracks, they're probably at the back on the loft. I have a couple of totes up there and a big cardboard box, and it's all extras, 55, 6, and 7 Chevy parts. And I'm thinking that's where they are, but they could be in my attic. Hell, they even could be up there in a little box up there, but I don't think they're up there. But anyway, I've got some looking to do, and I need to take my dog out anyway, so thanks for watching.